Hi, I'm Gia Marcos, reality TV reporter for TheThings, and I'm here with Zaina from The Ultimatum. Hi, Zaina.
It's me. I'm here.
I just want to start with how you ended up joining the show. Whose decision was it to join?
It was actually a mutual decision. An ad popped up for the show because it was casting in our area. And I kind of brought it up to JR as a joke, like, oh my God, look, they're casting. And he was like, oh, we should apply. So as we were going through the process, like it ended up just becoming like a very mutual decisions. There were some points where I was a little bit hesitant. And I just remember getting like a lot of reassurance from him of like, oh, our relationship has a strong enough foundation to go through an experience like this. And I was also kind of like, all right, I feel like in the real world, whenever future talk would come up, he would kind of like run away from it. And I felt like this would be a good opportunity for us both to have these healthy conversations about what the issues are and why he's hesitant about taking the next step.
So, what was the discussion like? Because I always wonder, like, for couples that join the show, it's like, what do you guys talk about coming into the show? Like, did you guys talk about boundaries, stuff like that? Because, like, what we saw in the
Oh,
season, it got
yeah,
really crazy.
really crazy. So, what's so interesting is that I wanted to have boundary conversations and he shut it down and was just kind of like, I don't feel like we need to have like this conversation. So in my brain, like of course, like looking back, and I'm sure everyone is like red flag, white flags. Like, yes, there were red flags. I'm sure we've all been delusional in love. That was me, I will admit it. And so another thing people don't realize is that I trusted JR so much. Like the JR that you guys saw on the show, and I even saw like a year later, is not the JR I dated in real life, or so I thought. So it's like going into the show knowing, it's all captured in 4K is my favorite line to say now because it's captured in 4K. Anything you do, you are held accountable by not only the person you came there with, but the world is seeing it too. So in my head, I'm like, you know what? We don't necessarily have to have, I don't need to tell you if you do certain things, like it's a no for me. So there was like a lot of trust going into the experience. And there was also a lot of reassurance, like from his end of like, like, of course we got this. Like we have a strong enough foundation. So there wasn't a lot of like pep talk of like, okay, if you kiss a girl, I'm breaking up with you. If you do this or that, like it's it should be unwritten. It should be an unspoken thing that you should go into an experience like this and respect your partner. And if you don't do that and you don't come clean, that makes me question your intentions for doing the show from the very beginning.
When I would read stuff online, they'd say, like, oh, she's so delusional, this and that. But I always say, I don't think any woman would be this delusional or hopeful, I'd say, if a man, wasn't giving her all of these promises or stuff like that. So
And
I had a feeling, I knew it.
it's very crazy because I mean, even at the reunion, he tried to make it seem like I was forcing that stuff to happen after the show. And it's like, I'm very much so, like I even said in the beginning, our relationship was always reciprocal. So he was giving me stuff and I was doing it in return. So it's like to then try and flip the script and make it seem like I was the one chasing or I was the one doing all these things. Like, no, you were giving me a lot of validation and reassurance. Like, even leading up to the experiment, like I wouldn't have dated the version I see of JR that you all watch. I would have never dated this man. He turned into a whole different like human being that I don't even recognize. My friends and family who have actually spent time with him are also very confused. Like we were all deceived. And at this point, my best friend said it best. Like I actually want to meet JR. Like who is JR? Because we don't know him.
So would you say that, like, everything we've seen him do on the show, would you say that that's like a TV persona maybe, or that maybe that's just who he is and this whole time, and obviously you just didn't know?
So that's the crazy part. And that's the scary part, actually, because even the reason why I was able to, like, after the show, because I was completely left in the dark, I thought that he only the reason why he didn't want to take the next step in our relationship was because it wasn't the right time. He wanted time to heal, but he was still giving me like all of the reassurance of like, it's not you, like, it's just really not the right time. So I thought, and then also he was transitioning from like corporate to fitness full time, and that's a financial risk. So I'm like, in my head, I rationalized it as, okay, who am I to be like, we just made all this progress in our trial marriage, a lot of the progress you guys didn't see, and I'm forcing a ring to happen right this second. Like, why don't we take everything we learned and continue to build? And he was giving me that reassurance to build up until like he discarded me like I didn't exist. So the person that he portrayed, I don't know. Like, either you were masking very well for like the 3 years we were together, or you decided to turn into a persona that would make entertaining television at my expense, which is still sick.
During the trial marriage, so I just wanted to ask, like, did you guys still have any contact when you were, paired up with your other partners for the trial marriage?
Yes. So that is not a secret at all. Like, everyone was in contact with their original partner. Scotty even knew that. And at one point, he asked me to reach out to JR to see if he wanted to use his barber. Okay. So it's like for me to walk in from guys' night knowing that you know what conversations have been, and you just like are so accusatory of like, have you spoken to JR? Like, the reason why I didn't answer that question directly, like you could see I was deflecting for a reason, is because I was trying to get him to ask the question behind the question. Like, don't just try and ask a pointed question to get me to say yes to fit into the narrative that you created in your mind, that I was the reason why JR hates you. So I was trying to get him to ask the real question, which was, did you tell JR that I said he's here for a hall pass? And he refused to like have that healthy conversation. You saw how it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
It was very accusatory the entire time. Like, oh, if you're on your phone, you must be texting JR. I have friends, family. I was working remotely. Like, my group chats with my friends and family were going up. They were getting the play-by-play of everything.
Yeah, that whole bathroom thing, like when he was saying that, you bring your phone to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I'm like, I use it for flashlight too.
It's
I
not
get
even,
it.
why are you like watching me? Like, that's weird. And I don't have anything to hide, but the reason why I didn't admit to it on camera is because I knew what he was doing. I knew it was very manipulative. And I was just trying to call him out for like, just ask the real question. Like, you came at me so crazy, knowing that conversations I've had, knowing that you've had conversations with Aria, you tell me about them as well. So why use this as a moment to try and prove like the narrative in your mind instead of having like a healthy discussion that just continued to escalate over days? Like, that, what you guys see is a truncated version, but that was going on for days where I had to repeat myself.
At the beginning, you and Scotty were kind of like, I thought, okay, this is kind of a good match for a trial marriage, because you basically had the same goals, had like these ideals for what you wanted in a marriage. So I thought, okay, this could be not problematic. And then during that conversation where you were talking about date ideas, and he took the whole thing as a rejection, and he reacted so like it was kind of scary. So but then you were so quick to de-escalate the situation, and everyone was actually like how does she do that? So I was wondering what was going on in your head at that time, like being faced with that kind of scary reaction.
I personally like, I've been getting a lot of compliments about how I handle situations like that, and I'm able to de-escalate. I didn't know that about myself like at all. So it's been very interesting to kind of watch it back and then hear like everyone's like commentary on it. In that moment, I mean, me as a person, like, I'm a very solution based person. When there's a conflict, like, let's get to the root cause. Like, what is the, like, beyond the emotions and how you're feeling and the rage or whatever it is, like, let's just have like a healthy conversation to try and find a common ground. So that's just how I approach conflict, like in life or in the workplace. It's just like, all right, let's hear each other out. And that's why even when he saw me turning down those date ideas, as a form of rejection, I wanted to like reassure him, like, I appreciate the thought behind it. Like, I don't want you to take the fact that I said no to these two things as like, I don't want to do anything with you. Like, don't take it to the extreme. Don't think that I'm being ungrateful that you want to do something out the box. Just know that these two things these two extremes, extreme cold and extreme air, are not what I consider fun. And I'm sorry.
Would you say that because for us viewers, that's what we thought was the first tension of it all between you two. Um, after that, did call it an argument, but after that scene, did it get a little weird between you two, or was it just like, okay, just move forward and like not think about it?
I think that was the first crack in our trial marriage. And I'm also a person that doesn't like to hold on to things. So I remember in real time, once again, me on my phone, I'm like texting my sister, oh my God, this just happened. And even after, we watched it back, and I know he went on to say we were like joking and laughing. Like, I searched in my messages for like hot air balloon to see the conversation with my sister and what I was saying to her in real time. And it was the same reaction I had like on camera, where I was like, I don't understand like where this energy is coming from. Like, I just don't want to do those two things. I could tell he was offended. So I would say that was like the first instance. Like, it wasn't in my head, I was able to just move on from it. Like, there wasn't a follow up conversation or like an apology or anything, but I was just like, all right, moving on. Because at the end of the day, in my trial marriage with Scotty, I was still looking forward to going back to JR. Even our conversations that we had, it was with JR and I, it was very much so when you are away from your partner on a trip. What did you do today? I just beat Scotty in horse. What did you do? I played mini bowling with Sandy. Like, it was very much so like that type of detachment, where the only time I ever really like said anything about like what's really going on between you and Sandy was with the hall pass situation, which came up like through like a conversation that Scotty and Aria had. And I know that was like something that was missing in the lead up to the chip moment on camera. But I can tell you about that if you want.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, go ahead. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so basically there was a moment where Aria and Scotty we were all at the gym off camera. They end up having a sidebar conversation. You could tell Aria is very emotional.
Yeah.
So as JR and I were like still in communication, I'm like, oh my God, Aria came in, they're having a heated argument or something, like she's crying, I'm leaving. So I went back to my apartment, Scotty and I's apartment. And when he came back, that's when he told me like Aria was distraught because she feels like guys are here for the wrong reasons. They're here for a hall pass. So I'm talking to Scotty. I'm like, who is she talking about? Because two guys left. It's only four of y'all. So she's not talking about you, not talking about Nick, not talking about Caleb, who she's with. Is she talking about JR? Yeah. And that's when she said, and that's when Scotty told me, like, I can't speak on another man. So I'm just like, at this point, I don't know anything that's going on. I don't know how JR was with like during dating week. I know nothing. So JR checks in with me to say, like, did Scotty tell you what Aria said? And that's like, and I explain the situation, and I make it very clear in those conversations, Scotty is not talking badly about you. He's trying to decipher like what Aria is saying. So it was very clear that the whole conversation stemmed from like Aria and Scotty. So then for JR to take that and weaponize it at guys' night was like, why would you do that? To try and like stir the pot with Scotty for what? And then that's why Scotty came at me crazy, because he thought that I said that, where he could have just he could have just asked a direct question and we would have gotten somewhere, instead of just trying to trap me and saying like, oh, you've been talking to him, so you must.
That was very intense. Let's talk about that scene. So
yeah.
I think that's the most memed scene I've ever seen in the history of the Ultimatum, because Scotty was giving like serial killer vibes. Like, he was looking at you like, I'm gonna kill you. Like, give me an answer. And
a lot is put in an interrogation.
I know a lot of fans are scared. Like, even I was scared. It was like, is she okay? And then I think there was a clip that I saw, because I didn't really see it myself when I was watching, that I think he might have grabbed your arm. So yeah, people were like, oh, like, was he being physically controlling as well. So, could you set the record straight on what really happened during that intense moment?
Yeah. So when I walked in, it did feel like an interrogation. I felt like the light was on me, the stare, like from the detective. I was honestly, me personally, I was not scared, like
Yeah.
at all. I was just like, Scotty, like,
Yeah,
are
you're
you
a
gonna talk or
brave
no?
woman.
Like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing? And it was just so intense. Like, I had actually walked away. I went to use the bathroom. I came back. He's still there. I'm like, okay, so what is going on? And I just feel like with Scotty, he got a lot of aggression from JR at guys' night, and he wanted to just like put the blame on me and have me admit that on camera, which I wasn't doing. And I could just tell like that was making him more and more frustrated that I wouldn't like just answer the question in the way that he wanted to be answered to prove his point. And I didn't like that because I'm like, now I don't trust you because you're trying to, instead of having like a productive conversation, a safe, with it being a safe environment, not physically safe, but emotionally safe, you wanted to kind of antagonize me and try and like position it so that I can take the fault for why JR thinks all these negative things about you. So in that scene, that's why I just kind of try to de-escalate. I'm like, take a deep breath. Like I sat down, like I'm gonna keep my composure. Like you need to match my energy now because I'm not gonna match you up here. So once we were able to actually like talk it through and I'm like walking away, I think I was going to like the pantry or something to get a snack. He did like grab my wrist. I think it was more so to just like get a hug, but it wasn't like, girl, come here and like,
Yeah.
let me hug you. So I didn't take it as like physical like aggression. I think he was just like, all right, thanks for like being so solution oriented and like trying to de-escalate it. But
So, um, about JR and Sandy's, trial marriage, a lot of people think it was shallow, that she was also, in on the whole hall pass thing. But during the reunion, it seemed like, she also had like negative emotions about that. Did you guys, you and Sandy have a conversation after the whole drama?
yeah, so we've had several conversations after I found out about the first kiss,
Yeah.
changeover. I told production we need to have a sit down because at that point we're supposed to be like in separate, like we're not supposed to talk to each other if we see each other at the gym and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, for her to like kind of tell me all these things at girls' night to then know that they did cross physical boundaries, like I did like Sandy a lot leading up to that point. And I was even joking with JR. I'm like, I love Sandy. Like, she's great. Like, all these things. So we did have a conversation back then. She did clarify a lot of things and just saying, like, nothing went past the kiss. JR wanted to be the one to tell you about the kiss. I didn't feel like it was my place, blah, blah, blah. So we talked about it then. Obviously, when you watch everything back, it was like way more than just like the peck that both of them like described. I'm thinking it's like two kindergartners kissing under the table, but there was a lot of like sexual energy and sexual tension and just like stuff coming out of JR's mouth. I'm like, who are you? Like, why are you saying these things? It's so disgusting. And so we did have a lot of conversations post show. Like she's checked in on me a lot. She's wanting to like give like exact details. Like she still stands by nothing crossed like physical boundaries, but like that those two or however many kisses they shared on camera. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, it is what it is. I'm no longer with this man. I'm so
Yeah.
happy. God revealed his true intentions, period. We were in a unique experience. She's not some rando girl from like the street. And I can just move past it all and just release it. Like we did this thing. I'm no longer in it. Everyone except for JR has taken accountability and apologized. So
Yeah, that's true.
and no, he to this day, like he has not apologized. He has not said anything. He blocked me on Instagram the night of the
Yeah, and
reunion.
you never got closure, right?
And that's okay. Like sometimes in life you
Yeah.
don't get closure, you have to create your own closure. I'm not looking for closure for him. I just think it did hurt knowing that I spent 3 years with someone who ended up not being the person that I knew. And from a humanity level, if you know that you did someone so dirty, so wrong, so publicly, I just expected an apology, period. But now those expectations have completely released. I'm like, you're not even capable of that, and I'm fine. I don't need it from you.
Looking back at how it all transpired and JR being like a completely different person on TV. Um, a lot of people say that, like, this man never loved you, this and that. But of course, that's an outside perspective. What do you think about your relationship now in retrospect?
It's so hard to actually like wrap my head to this day because I think everyone also forgets like I just watched everything back with you guys around the same time.
Yeah.
So like, the version of JR and the relationship I thought we had versus like what we're seeing is polar opposite. Where it's like, I don't want to think that the love was never there. I think that it was there. I just think he chose fame or chose like whatever to trump like our relationship.
Yeah.
And so when you have those things and you have like those intentions, like the people that you love don't matter. So I do question if that was real love or if that was convenient love. Like we were a COVID relationship. At that time, the world was shut down and we did dig deep super quickly. So even people, the way it's edited, it makes it seem like I learned about his childhood like 3 years later. I knew it all. This was a chance for us to dig deep and like try to rediscover things about each other. So I'm also left very puzzled. Like, I don't know, but it also doesn't really matter to me because I'm out of it. Like, you don't do someone that you love like that. You don't allow them to watch it that. Like, you don't treat someone that you love like that. So maybe he doesn't even know what real love is.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, you really love this man and you really thought you had a future together and you just gave it your all, as one should when they say they're committed to someone.
No, exactly. And he was giving me that love. So I thought in return, like, even with like the gifts and things like that and birthdays, like for my birthday that year, he took me to Jamaica. Like he planned a full on trip. Like I walked into the room and it was filled with like balloons and decorations. So it's like that was like our love language for each other around like birthdays and celebrations and stuff.
Are you just staying single these days? Are you dating, or what's the situation?
So even before I saw everything, I made the decision to close that door for myself. When I realized he wasn't giving me what I needed and he was being weird, top of this year, I decided to walk away from it and close that chapter. So I did take like a big chunk of this year, like healing. I didn't want to just jump right in and try and like medicate my pain with like new people or like partying and doing all these things to distract from the true healing. So I'm at the place now where I'm open. I'm open to love again. I'm not using like what happened with him as my perspective on love or guys.
What do you think about Nick accidentally getting a tattoo that's similar to JR's?
Oh, Nick. I just know that they ask you a lot many times if this is the right exact thing you want. So, Nick, come on.
The guys. Like, what's going on there?
No, and it just seemed like JR was so focused on getting under Nick's skin.
Yeah.
Like my expense too. Like some of the digs he was doing is like, yo, your girl is sitting right across the table. You're talking about going to her Christmas dinner with her family. Like, what is wrong with you?
I know. It wasn't even about the women that they came there with. It was like
one up each other. And it's like,
and I'm like, if anyone's
I'm confused.
Yeah, if what people are saying about, the cast members of the Ultimatum joining for clout, it might have been the men because the way they acted, it's like real TV drama right there.
It's like you guys gave us a great entertaining season. Congratulations.
So that's all I have, and I really had a great chat, and I'm glad to see you all glowing because in the show, I mean, you've always looked pretty, but like this time it's like a single glow and ready for
No more toxic people around me type of glow. So
yeah.
I'm happy for that now this chapter is officially closed. Now that it's on air. I'm just looking forward to whatever God really has for me and a real man to walk in that door.